At current valuations, is AMD stock a buy? Well, that's the question I'm going to answer in this video, looking at the company's valuation and weighing it and measuring it against its prospects. So let's get right into it, starting with revenue. And looking at AMD's revenue over the last decade, you notice a notable increase here, but then a burst during the pandemic as people spending more time at home needed more computers. Instead of having one computer each household, you needed one computer each member of a household. And so AMD got a big boost from that segment of its business, and revenue exploded from a little under 8 billion all the way up to 24 billion. Now, though, it's experiencing a bit of a decline in that business from 24 billion down to 21.88 billion. There's been a gap in computer sales. Overall, PC sales in 2023 are down meaningfully. They were down by as much as 30% in the first quarter of the year. And so sales are down, but that's a short-term thing. It's a temporary thing. I fully expect computer sales, personal computer sales, to rebound in 2025. The reason I say 2025 is because many people bought computers in 2020 and 2021, and typically the average life of a computer is 4 to 6 years. And so those folks that started buying computers in 2020, they're going to need to start replacing them sometime in 2024 or 2025. So I'm saying I expect AMD's revenue to rebound in 2025, to be a bit conservative, to allow for more of a lead time for those replacements to start coming in and boosting industry-wide sales that undoubtedly AMD will benefit from. Maybe it won't be the one that benefits the most, but it will benefit from that trend. Also, AMD is making investments, making its chips, CPUs, GPUs more customized for the development of artificial intelligence. And so it fully expects to participate in that industry. For a while, it caught up to NVIDIA in terms of the graphic processing units for gaming. I was hearing a lot of chatter in gaming communities where AMD's gaming chips were up there with NVIDIA on a price-to-price comparison. So it has done it before where it got close. NVIDIA is significantly in the lead for artificial intelligence. No argument against that. But AMD can mount a counterattack and join the race, at least, even if it's not going to be the leader in the industry. The next thing I wanted to look at is its operating income. And this, we see a more notable rise and fall. The big boost, of course, the reason I mentioned earlier, computer sales exploded during the pandemic, during the times when people were working and learning from home, more proportionally higher. But now that's reversed, negative 378 million. And that's making this decline in sales look even worse, because it looks like to even maintain sales at this rate, AMD has had to lower prices, offer incentives and promotions just to generate those amounts of sales, and that's leading to losses in operating income. In fact, management has noted that they have offered lower prices and more incentives to get through its inventory, which I want to talk about a little bit later in the video. I wanted to first look at, when I'm looking at the balance sheet, I wanted to first look at debt, and then I'll look at inventory on the balance sheet. So no problem here with debt for AMD. It has a total long-term debt of just 2.4 billion. In fact, it has more cash than long-term debt. And so long-term debt, not an issue for AMD. It's got an excellent balance sheet ratio here. The next thing I wanted to look at is inventories, and then I wanted to show you cash flow from operations in the same chart to show the inverse relationship here. So you notice longer term, a rising level of cash flow from operations and inventory. That's to be expected. That's not alarming, right? As a company grows in scale, it needs to invest in greater quantities of inventory to generate the greater quantities of sales and profits and cash flow. That's understandable. What's unique here is the last year and a half. You see inventories starting in 2022 really hitting an inflection point higher, growing from 2 billion to 4.567 billion, and cash flow from operations falling from close to 4 billion to 2.397 billion. And so what that highlights is cash being used to create inventory, which is now sitting in the company's balance sheet, sitting in the company's warehouses, and taking up space, taking up cash. And so there you see that negative inverse relationship between cash flow and inventory. This was not done on purpose. Sometimes companies build up inventories like this on purpose in anticipation of a big surge in customer demand. This wasn't the case here. This was the case of AMD getting caught off guard a little bit in the quick change in consumer behavior, right? Going from the robust demand for personal computers to all of a sudden the quick change. And AMD, because of the lead times from when AMD decides to produce this inventory to the time it hits the market, when it actually became time for it to hit the market, now they realized, oh, we made too much and we have too much inventory. And so that's can explain the negative operating income as the company is offering discounts to bring down this inventory level, to bring it back down. I would say it needs to be more along the lines of 2.5 billion for it to be match up for its with its longer term trend line, its revenue level. So it's got about $2 billion more in inventory than it should have, in my opinion, and that's leading to this decrease in cash flow from operations. And so it does need to discount and get rid of this. So there's going to be another quarter or two of pain ahead for AMD. And finally, I wanted to look at valuation. AMD is trading at a forward price to earnings of 34.98. And I would say its earnings are depressed right now because of the factors I mentioned, excess inventory, discounts to get rid of that inventory. So near term, its earnings are lower than where I would expect them to be 2 to 4 years from now. So if I've got at least a 3 year investment horizon, at least 3 years, then I would say yes, AMD stock is a buy. Given, of course, you have to understand the near term, there's going to be more pain ahead as the company needs to right size its inventory balance to get it to where current customer demand is. So that's my thoughts around AMD stock.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.